My name is Josh Flores. I'm the Director of English Language Arts for the Oklahoma State Department of Education in the Office of Instruction. So welcome to my experiment, PD on Your Plan. The following presentation is based on my thoughts regarding instruction and are informed by research, academic practices, standards, guidance documents produced by the State Department, and my personal experiences in the classroom. I started here a year ago, as of last week, and one of the things we did as directors of instruction is tour Oklahoma and provide professional development in these 3.5 hour long sessions. And I received great feedback from both ends of the spectrum. One end of the spectrum where I have teachers saying, this was great, but it was also 3.5 hours long. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. Could you spread it out more? Thanks. And then I have teachers from the other end of the spectrum saying, hey, this was great, but that wasn't long enough. We need to have a whole day where we're focused on this. In an effort to respect teachers' time, to not take them away from their students, because I know it's a bummer to have to make sub-plans and leave your kids for a day to go to 3-hour PDs. I hated leaving my students with a sub and developing sub-plans and then to come back just to feel like I needed to do a lot more catch-up. I thought this would be a good way so you can stay in your classroom, not have to worry about sub-plans, get information delivered in practical chunks, and hopefully it'll be meaningful topics because it'll always be based on topics that teachers are sending me that they're interested in and learning more about or need support in. Right now we're focused on writing. It might change in the future, but this is just session 1 on writing. I plan to continue this because the type of writing issues that people have been emailing with, we can't solve it all in just one 30-minute session. We need to chunk it out, and we don't want to do a 3-hour PD and just overwhelm and not know where to start. So with that in mind, I don't want to be the only one talking, or do I? I am an English teacher. I don't. I would like to eventually get other teachers coming in, doing a session. Might not be all day, of course, but I would love to come to your room, record what you're doing, and put it out there so we can all learn from each other. And we can highlight the awesome stuff Oklahoma educators are doing in our state. I think I've got the disclaimer out of the way, so let's get to talking about writing, starting with this quick write up here. So here's a fun quick write I like to give to students. Which archetype best describes you today? Lots of choices there with a short description. If you really want to challenge them, take the description away and let them pull from their own notes they've taken when you've done your lesson on archetypes. You wouldn't just have them just pick one and that's it. You want them to extend and elaborate. Okay, tell me why you're the scapegoat. Tell me why you're the hero. Give me specific details and connect it to a character from a text that we've read. Even though it's a fun quick write, it's still putting that student at the beginning of my class, because I would do this the first 5 minutes of class and then give them 5 minutes to think, pair, share their response. But they still put them in the frame of mind where they are making a claim, supporting it with textual evidence that they have to recall from previous day or previous week, and then they have to use logical reasoning to connect that evidence to the claim. So it's actually pretty complicated, even though very fun. And that's what we like to do as teachers. We like to be complicated and fun at the same time. Let's talk about writing. Anytime I do a lesson or anytime I do a presentation, it's my goal to establish at least 3 takeaway items, details, facts, important information for the participants or the audience or the students to walk away with. Hopefully you get more than that, but at least these 3 are going to be what I focus on and I hope to get across today. The first one, of course, is writing, step 1. We're going to look at the issues of writing that I've been getting a lot of emails about and talk about that first step that needs to happen to get over those challenges. Second, prerequisite knowledge. This is going to be all the background information, skills that need to happen in order for step 1 to be accomplished. Third, I'm going to share some resources that are free and super cool. So where do we start? We're going to start by looking where we're going, because we really got to decide where we're going to determine where we start. And when I look at the spectrum of specifically writing assessments that our students are going to have to conquer as they progress through their education, we have that 5th grade, 8th grade, and then English 2 and 3. I'm not suggesting by this that pre-K should worry about the 5th grade writing test and then be focused on using the 5th grade rubric to grade their writing by any means, of course. But I do think it is beneficial for grades under the 5th grade year to also be aware that this is where the students are headed, and then to look at that rubric and negotiate it in terms of, well, what am I doing in my class that helps prepare students for this level of writing? For instance, if I was a 6th grade teacher, I would absolutely benefit from looking at that 8th grade writing rubric, not using it to grade any of my students' writing necessarily, but as a guiding document just to let me know this is what they can look forward to, so I can do certain skills based on this rubric in my class to help prepare them for that level. So we're looking ahead for them and then giving them that knowledge that empowers them to conquer that hurdle when they leave us and go past us to that 8th grade level. It's kind of like if you saw your students and they weren't paying attention and they were walking straight for a glass window with their head down because they're too busy texting, you wouldn't let them just bonk their head into it. You would definitely warn them, hey, there's a glass window ahead of you, right? I'm pretty sure that analogy is sound. When it comes down to it, when they're composing a passage-based writing, they have to comprehend the information, understand what they're reading, be able to categorize it, not just everything, but the important details. Develop a claim, and then sequence all those important details into evidence to support that claim. So today we're going to assume that the students we're working with do know how to read, maybe on various levels, but they at least have that ability. If you need support in reading instruction and guidance, then please contact your friendly neighborhood Reach coach. And if you don't know who that is, I can put you in contact with them and help you find out who they are and how they can help you. And so this is some research put out by a guy, you probably have heard of him. His name's Robert J. Marzano. He did a little research and published an article called The Art and Science of Teaching, Summarizing to Comprehend. When we think of comprehension, comprehension is based on summarizing, the ability to take in information and put it out there. And students are going to need to have an understanding to do the summary, as well as be able to use their own words to develop an expert summary, a well-developed summary. Along those lines, summarizing in general is the most crucial language arts skill, and it benefits all subjects, not just our subject area, but it's a skill that can be used in any subject area. I don't know if you ever heard of the 80-20 rule. It's a financial rule, essentially, that says that 80% of your gains are done by 20% of the things you do. So summarizing would be part of that 20%. That's one of the most essential skills in our toolbox as teachers of instructional practices that we can do to get the biggest gains from our students, is to focus on really well-developed summaries. So what are the characteristics of this professional, well-developed summary? Well, it has to be succinct. It has to be a restatement or a paraphrasing in their own words, and it has to be focused on the important details. First, and probably the most important, students need more time and practice or more strategies to help them identify what are important details. These strategies work best when they emphasize text structures and are best practice when the student's allowed to annotate within the book. I know we can't always do that in the textbook, but that's why Post-it notes are so great. Post-it notes or 3x5 note cards are really great to just stick in the book, and then you don't lose it. You don't lose your deposit at the end of the year, and you don't ruin that book. Or if you have a super nice principal, then maybe you can just make tons of copies every day, which you probably don't want to do. But it's fun when they can actually write in the text and get what I call intimate with that text by marking it up. Number each paragraph. Even before they read, before they TV cast, whatever, I have them number the paragraphs. That way they subliminally set a mental bookmark for each paragraph, and they can go back and reference it very quickly when they're looking at the details that they're going to fill in next. Identify the people, setting, and events. These are the key details that will lead them to any inferencing-based questions. They can pull these details together and infer a lot past what's explicitly stated in the text. If you want to give them a really concrete strategy, tell them to circle the proper nouns, of course, proper names of people or characters, depending on what you're reading, whether it's nonfiction, informational, or a literary fictional text. And settings can also be dates, actual times, not just locations. And then, of course, what are the details associated with each of those? Just short details, not entire sentences. I try to get them not to do entire sentences, but actually underline just the important words or actions associated with each of those subjects. So text structures. Marzano's research shows that They have to have an understanding of how the text actually works together, sentences, paragraphs, words. In our pre-K through 5th grade, the text structures that they're really going to focus on are opinion pieces, informative, and narrative. They start to recognize those and then of course start to reproduce those, and that's definitely going to look different for each grade level, of course. But the Appendix A, which I'm also linking in one of the documents I'm going to send out for just your own resources, it has these kind of defined in a very nice way. It switches in the 6th to 8th grade where they would want to focus on the text structures associated with argumentative, informative, and narrative writing. Informative and narrative repeat, but the argument takes a bit of a larger leap than the opinion. However, 9th through 12th, if we really want to strengthen our students' writing, there are 6 different AP text structures that they would focus on besides the 3 that they've been tested on so far, so they're extended just a little bit more, and I'll give those definitions out in a one-page handout as well. So besides the structure knowledge, students are going to have some sort of background vocabulary to pull from. They need to have a clear idea of what a claim is, what is evidence, and what is reason. Claims is pretty cut and dry. It's a statement. It's their belief, their opinion, or whatever they're arguing for. We did a lesson last year at our regionals called Cats versus Dogs, and it was a research level writing where students had to read a text and determine what makes the best pet. Are they cats or are they dogs? I think dogs, but I can say that because I have both. Even for at a pre-K level, a claim is very easy. Turns out pre-K students are very opinionated. They'll tell you dogs are the best pet or cats are the best pet. They've made a claim. Evidence, there's actually a very specific definition of evidence provided in the state standards, Appendix A, on page 42, if you want to get specific, under the glossary of key terms. And evidence runs the gamut of facts, figures, details, quotations, data, and other information, and even personal experience. And reason is just the logic that goes behind it. All the filler that helps connect, if they have to elaborate or explain how that evidence connects to the claim, all that is the reason, the reasoning part, the logic part. So last but not least, Marzano talks about organizing these ideas. Do they have good strategies to help them organize the ideas in their head? This is where the reasoning comes in. Graphic organizers are used quite a bit. My favorite version of a graphic organizer are the mind maps. If you've never seen a mind map, just search on YouTube. There's very good directions for how to do a mind map. I would show my students at the beginning of the school year one of the YouTube videos and then have them do their own mind map over a short story we read, just for practice. It's a little bit different. It's a higher level order thinking than most graphic organizers because it also involves color coding, visuals, and just their own creativity. You can, of course, put structures in place as you see fit. Frames, I think frames are always good for struggling writers. That's the second thing here for organizing ideas. And if you're like me, you probably just carry a notebook around all the time and you just daydream, like what are some good frameworks I can put in place to help my students, help guide them. Here's one that I have that I've been tooling around with. It's a modified 5-paragraph essay. I start with that just because students seem to be so accustomed to the 5-paragraph essay format, but it's not really enough anymore when you have to analyze these deep arguments and you're asking them to compose these texts where they have to cite and paraphrase. So here's my favorite part, because I'm going to share some resources with you. These resources, the first two anyway, newsela.com and lexile.com Find a Book, are based on Lexile scores. On the right, I have this Lexile chart, also taken from Appendix A of the state standards. If you're not familiar with Lexiles, it's an imperfect tool that gauges the complexity level of texts. So I say it's imperfect, and they will give you the disclaimer on the websites about Lexiles that it is imperfect, and it should just be used with your own professional judgment, but it's meant to help provide some type of guidance of what is the right complexity of text that I need to be using in my classroom. Lexile levels are determined based on vocabulary and sentence length. And as we know, there are some very complex books that use short vocabulary and short sentences that we would never expect an elementary student to comprehend. So that's why it's an imperfect tool, but if you need something concrete to start out with, it's good to explore. So this is News ELA. News ELA is a great informational nonfiction resource that's also free. When you sign up for a teacher account, you can check in every day. There's a variety of topics. Let's see, look at this article. This would be really interesting to give to students. You'll notice that because I'm signed into my teacher account, I have these classes up here at the top that I made, these little demo classes. I can assign this reading to each class as I see fit, so when they come to Computer Lab, they just go sign into their News ELA account and read it, and they can answer the built-in quiz question. It shows me the answer, possible answer, just because I'm on my teacher's account, but they won't get that. If that's not an option and you want them to practice annotating, which would be great, you can also print it, especially if you have a super nice printable that lets you just print at your heart's desire. But that's not even the cool part about this website. You'll see that it's already associated with grade level 8, and here's its Lexile level in this magic blue bar. But say you don't teach grade 8, or say more likely you don't have all students on the same grade level or on the same reading level, but you still want them to read articles along the same topics of what's being discussed in class. Well, if you press these magic buttons down here, you can adjust the Lexile levels of the article. Watch this live. I want you to focus in on the text here down at the bottom, and I'm going to lower the Lexile level. Ta-da! Now it's a grade 4 level reading assignment. So if they're on an IEP, just overall struggling readers, an ELL student, it structures it so it makes it a little bit more manageable, but they still get the same ideas and same topic, and then they can participate in class discussion too. As we know, there's research out there that talks about how much students learn by talking about what they're reading to each other too. So they are reading it, they're talking about it, then they're putting it into writing. A full brain workout right there. This is a great search engine to compile reading lists for students. So when they come to you and they're like, hey, winter break's coming up, spring break's coming up, fall break, summer break, I need a huge reading list, because that's what they like to do on their breaks. You can take them here, or take their parents here, have them fill in their grade level, their attitude towards reading, and click submit. The next page will give you a list of topics and genres for them to choose reading material from. So when they determine what topics they want to read about, then they can just print that off, go to the library, check out a bunch of books, and they'll be set all summer long, and they'll be so happy. Go to mid/del.net, Mid-Del School's homepage, and they developed some excellent passage-based writing prompts for you to use and practice with your students. Grades 3 through 11, quite a gamut. So if you go under Departments and click on Teaching and Learning Curriculum, on the next page, click on District Curriculum in the left bar. Now you have these little folders. You're going to want to click on the little plus sign by the folder for Language Arts/Reading. Then click on the Benchmark Writing Assessments, and then you have Informative and Opinion Argumentative writing prompts. So click on that Opinion Argumentative and look at all those free resources in a nice downloadable PDF file that Mid-Del has developed. Thank you for your hard work, Mid-Del. High five. Just to reiterate the 3 takeaways from the beginning. Writing, step 1, I'd focus on summarization, because that's the basis for comprehension and paraphrasing that they're going to have to do. Prerequisite knowledge. Filtering, text structures, and organization strategies. Number 3, resources. I shared those resources with you just now. Thank you for your time today, and please give me feedback. Have a good day. Get some sleep, get some rest, and I'll send everything out via email and follow up with you tomorrow. Talk to you later.